once in a while, if I give them a hard time in our staff meetings, I have a responsibility, and that's to go out and measure the parking lots. I'll say something that was a little bit out of line, and he'll say, Roy, why don't you go out and measure the parking lot? So now I carry the measurements with me in my pocket. As a friend of my preacher, I don't listen to any negative talk, tapes, or read any books. I don't know if I need to put that down as a responsibility or not. But I love my preacher. And I love my job. I love my church. And there's nobody in the world like Brother Hyles. I mean, if you could only get a vision of what Brother Hyles is really like. You get to see a little bit of Brother Hyles when you're here. But I get to see him all the time. And Brother Hyles is not a phony. He's not a fake. He's a real guy. And to serve him the way I do, I consider it a real honor and a real privilege that I have here. And I just want to thank all of you for loving my preacher. He's a great guy. God bless you, folks.
All right. You can be seated. Everybody on the staff is different. Let me say this too. Everybody on the staff shows everybody on the staff shows love differently. And everybody reads love differently. One day, Cindy, our baby girl, married, 2 children. Cindy's always been very loving to her dad. I mean, she writes me little love notes, and she always hugs me and tells me she loves me and she's proud of me. And one day when Cindy was a teenager, Mrs. Hyles said to me, she said, I wish Cindy would tell me she loves me like she tells you she loves you. And I said, didn't I overhear Cindy on the phone last night canceling a party or something she was supposed to go to because you weren't feeling well and nobody asked her to? Didn't she say, I want to stay home with my mama because my mama's not feeling well? Ms. Hyles said, yes, she said that. I said, she's saying I love you. That's what she's saying. And that's the way she tells you she loves you. She said, but I want her to tell me like she tells you. And I said, look, baby, you take whatever you can get from a teenager. And so some men on the staff readily say to me, I love you, preacher. One fellow the other day, a little differently. He said, Brother Hyles, he said, we're not doing all this work we're doing this week because we love you, are we? That's the way he said he loves me. To some people, squeeze of an arm, pat on the back. Everybody has a different way, and everybody has a different vocabulary. Now, I try to learn the vocabulary of my staff members so I can speak love and to each one in his own vocabulary. I want you to meet John Colston. Now, John Colston doesn't have 30 secretaries. He doesn't have one secretary. John Colston does something that doesn't require secretarial work. He's the fellow who helps me pastor this church. This guy's 1 in a million. There are a few men in the world that I think are just, well, I often say this about John. If I get to heaven, he's not there. I'm not sure I'm going to stay. This guy is one of the greatest, finest men I've ever met. His title is my associate pastor. He's going to tell you what he does.
I'm in the habit of winking at the organist. I'm sorry, Bob. I didn't mean to. I already unreeled that wink before I saw it was you. I've been working with and for Brother Hyles now for 25 years. It doesn't seem that long. If I had dreamed a plan for my life back there when you're supposed to plan your life, I couldn't have dreamed anything so special and so wonderful. God's been awfully good. And I'm so glad that I trusted the Lord to lead me to the place of service where I am. And I didn't come here to be on the staff. I just came here to be in the church. My wife and I both, we just decided this is where the Lord wanted us. We're not from this area. We moved to the area because we knew about First Baptist Church of Hammond. And tell you, it was the best move of our lives. And it's a wonderful privilege. It's always been such a privilege to work for a preacher. He treats everybody in such a special way and makes you feel like you're somebody. Perhaps my main responsibility is the hospital visitation. I spend many hours, and of course that requires a rather strange schedule. Sometimes there are emergencies, most of you know. And so most any hour of the day or night could find me visiting someone in the hospital. I believe this, that of all the medications that the patient receives, there's none to beat prayer. And I believe, too, that a merry heart doeth good like a medicine, so I try to bring him some cheer and cut up with him a little bit. And it's not easy to get a dying person to laugh, but it's worth a shot, you know. One time, a long time ago, before I started hospital visitation, I've been doing this for most of the years that I've been on staff, but before I ever started doing it, I called on a fellow staff member. He was on the custodial staff of the church. Big old fella. His name was Clarence Gorin. He wound up with a heart problem, was in intensive care over here at the St. Margaret's Hospital, just close by. And I'd never done any hospital calling, but I went to see Brother Clarence, and they allowed me to go in to see him in the intensive care unit. And I remembered visiting him. And I remembered somehow it made him feel better that I visited him. And I was so caught up with the feeling of that I had helped somebody. And so coming out of the hospital that night, I talked to the Lord for a little bit. I said, Lord, I'd like to do this all the time. I'd like to do it all the time. Well, not immediately, but it wasn't long after that I got to visit the members of this church in the hospital. And these hospitals are scattered all over. Hospitals in Chicago where some of our members go, and hospitals to the east and to the west, and it's not uncommon to put 100 miles or more a day on the car visiting hospitals. One day I kept track of the number of the hospitals I visited. I visited 9 hospitals that one day, 9 different places where our people were sick. Now, it's not that way every day. Thank goodness it's not that way every day. But it's a wonderful privilege and joy to do hospital visitation. And I think it's so important to, it's some of the cement which holds the church family together, to know that they're cared for by someone who comes to them during an hour of tremendous need. If you've ever been very, very sick, you know how important it is to have someone care about you. I also visit in the homes of those who have had a death in the family. Someone dies, a member of the church or a member of a church family, and I go to that family and try to bring them some comfort. You know, it's, of course, the first time you ever do anything like that, you're scared to death. You don't know how you're going to act, and you don't know what you're going to say. But folks who've suffered a loss need someone just to care and to be there. It's not important what you say so much as just being there. Not so important as to how you put it or whatever you might say in the way of words, but it is important for them to know that someone has taken the time and is there in their hour of need. I also do some ill-at-home visitation. Folks who've been released from the hospital are visited, and folks who have serious illnesses at home. I check on those folks. I also am in charge of teacher enlistment for all the male teachers in our Sunday school setup, and I like doing that. It's good to be able to sit someone down across from you and explain what it means to teach in the greatest church on the face of the earth and the responsibility that that entails, and to try to challenge them and help them to be good teachers of our Sunday school pupils. I'm also in charge of follow up on new members of the church, go to the home and talk to them about the church and talk to them about their questions and so forth, and also give them some pieces of literature which I designed myself and wrote, and it gives them some help concerning adjusting to the church. Can you imagine walking into this situation and trying to adjust? It's not all that easy, and hopefully my visit helps them to adjust here in the Great First Baptist Church. I'm the teacher of the New Life class. It's a class of older adults, of which I am one. And that's been a special, special privilege. I used to teach a little junior class of boys, but this class had a vacancy, and they needed someone to kind of care about them and to teach them. And it's not a very large class. We average in the high 30s on good days. And yet, these people are so special to me, and they spoil me rotten. They're so good to me. I help out with the baptizing. And that's just a mechanical thing, right? You know, you just dip them and send them away. But no, I often pray for the person that I'm baptizing. And also, the little children who are eligible for baptism because they've been saved, they've been dealt with carefully. Often a parent will bring by a child to my office and say, could you talk to little Susie or Johnny about baptism? And I explain to them, and I show them how it's done, and I befriend them. And usually they'll come very soon after that to be baptized, although they were at first very worried about it. As you may know, I've been given the duty and have had this duty for numbers of years now, reading the scripture here on Sunday mornings and Sunday evenings. That's special to me. Very special. One fellow said when I visited him as a new member of the church, he says, "Oh yes, you're the fellow that starts the service." Well, no. There are other things that go on before I start the scripture, but that's where the tape starts. When I was a teenager, I remember taking my Bible and practice reading it aloud. My dream then was to one day read scripture for Billy Graham. He was the big thing back then, and a good evangelist back then when I was a kid. And I dreamed that I might one day read scripture in a Billy Graham campaign. I practiced. I didn't know I'd do better than that. Isn't God good? I helped serve Lord's Supper. And I remember the first time I was asked to do that, I was scared to death. Preacher says, just watch me do what I do. And so I've done that for years and years. And that's still a very special thing to do, because it's a very special time in the life of the church when we sit at the Lord's table. I do some of the counseling, not a great deal. If I had a choice of who to go to, I'd go to him, not me. But some people come to me and seek my counseling. And with God's help, I try to do the best I can to advise them and to help them. As second man, it's my duty to do whatever a preacher wants. And so some of the things that I wind up doing are not on a list like this. They're occasional things that the preacher says, this is what I'd like you to do. Call on this one, go visit this person in prison, or do this or do that. And so it's wonderful to not only be able to please my preacher in doing what he wants me to do, but to do it in such a way as would bring pleasure, I trust, to my Savior also. It's great to work here. It's great. And so in closing, I just want you to know that I do whatever he tells me to.
You know, I'll sometimes sit in my office while there's a funeral service going on here in this auditorium. Brother John's conducting it, or somebody else is conducting it. I sometimes sit in my office while somebody I've pastored for 20 years is getting married, and somebody else is performing the wedding ceremony. You see, you're not going to have the advantages of good help unless you can ride over some little disadvantages. I mean, folks don't know how much I love them because I don't get to go see them. This many folks in the hospital today, First Baptist Church, there's no way in the world I can see. And if I see any of them, if I see one, I got to see somebody else. So I can't see any of them. But you got to share the spoils with your staff. One of the members of our staff is Brother Jack Scott. He's going to come now and tell you about his responsibility.
Thank you very much. My duties on staff are this: I don't do anything. I don't have to. I married the boss's daughter, so that's why I'm on staff.
Boy, he's got it made, hasn't he? Okay. Now back to the workforce. Oh, man. Jack Scoff is at the college. He's on duty, on call anytime I'm late. I preach on Wednesday. If I can't get there because of airplane trouble or something, he's on call. He's the guy that takes my place. He's always ready to go. And he's one of the finest preachers, and one of the finest sons-in-law you'd ever want to meet also. He's been good to our daughter, and we'll love him forever for it. By the way, he is part-time on staff at the church. I traded Brother Young half-time for Brother part-time, gave him the college, and got Brother Scott part-time with the church. However, I also got 2 first-round draft choices and a player to be named later. But all right. Brother Jeff Owens is the newest addition to our staff. And what a tremendous guy. What a wonderful, wonderful work he does. I find myself sometimes wondering how we made it without him all those years. I'm glad we don't have to now.
I work here at the church as an assistant pastor, and first of all, let me say that's exactly what I want to be, an assistant to my pastor. I take all my duties and all the tasks that he would have me to do, and I get his approval, and I want his approval. I think my preacher knows best. When I first started here on staff, he gave me some things that he wanted me to care for. One of the first was that he wanted me to start a class for young married people. It's a class that we call the Sweetheart Couples class. We started the class 2 years ago. It's a non-college student class. It's specifically for non-college people that live in the area. So I started that class 2 years ago. We had over 100 in our class last Sunday. I oversee a special music program in that class. We have a men's soul winning group in the class. We meet every Tuesday night. I meet with the men. I teach them on soul winning and give them prospects, and they go out into the area and go soul winning. Our ladies in the class also meet. I provide them with prospects weekly. I provide, between those two groups, about 40 different names and prospects for them to visit every week. I have an activity for our class every 6 to 8 weeks. I counsel the people in our class. And so I just oversee that class as if it were just a little church within the big church here. Of course, every Sunday morning then, I work the altar here, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, whatever preacher needs concerning something like that. I'm a part-time faculty member at Hyles Anderson College. I teach a class there called Biblical Character Traits. It has a second part that we call Biblical Character Traits 2. I teach pastoral counseling at the college. I teach the pastoral counseling college in the evening class. There's a total of about 300 students that set in my classes at the college. I preach often then at the different services or at the different chapels of our schools, at Hyles Anderson College, at Hammond Baptist High School, Hammond Baptist Junior High School, Hammond City Baptist. Each week, my schedule includes 12 speaking appointments somewhere here in this system on a regular basis. I coach our junior high soccer team. During the regular season, we practice every night of the week but Wednesday night. We have 15 to 20 games every year. I take care of lining up transportation and the little intricacies of the soccer team. We have an awards banquet every year that I get involved with. And then each year during the summer, for one solid week, we have a soccer camp for 4 hours a day, and I oversee the soccer camp. I'm also responsible for doing some soul winning in the area. Of course, every ministry we have here is a soul winning ministry, but Brother Hyles asked me specifically to concentrate on going into the communities near the church here and winning adults. And so I go throughout this area and I go soul winning, trying to get adult people involved in our Sunday school and our church here. I gather prospects from many places for that. On a regular basis, I compile the names and addresses of all the names of the Bible Club teenagers' parents. And then I follow up and try to get them saved. Maybe I'll channel those prospects to another adult class who would it'd be a little older class so that the teenagers' parents would have a place to come to Sunday school. I have someone that compiles the names and addresses of new married people in the area. And then we try to get them involved in one of the married couples classes. We also watch for people that have recently had a new child born in the area. We try to get them involved in one of the couples classes. After our decision slips on Sunday morning or Sunday evening have gone through the full process of the names being recorded in the different places, I get those decision slips. I then file them according to date and then location. And I use those as follow-up tools. I'll go through and I'll follow up on every adult that I can. If a lady walked the aisle, I'll follow up and try to make sure her husband's saved. If a man walks the aisle, I'll follow up and try to see if his wife has been saved. I'll then take those decision slips and I divide them into different classifications, all of them that are teenagers. The Bible Club ministry will follow up on them. Then those who have younger children, my couples class might follow up on them. I may channel the names of the ones who have children maybe between the ages of 7 and 12 to Brother Eddie's couples class, and then the ones who are a little bit older maybe to Brother Moffat's class, and then others I'll just try to get the parents into Brother Hyles' class here. I'm the superintendent of the D-Bus Teenage Sunday School Department. I assign the rooms for all the classes there, of course, and care for the discipline and watch over that department, recruiting the teachers and recruiting the general teachers and the officers for the classes. I oversee the D-Bus preaching service. I preach there every Sunday afternoon. I organize the altar workers and the name takers, and we have a complete music program there that I oversee. Then I oversee the Bible Club ministry here. I select the Bible Club leaders. I have a meeting with them every Saturday morning. We have 18 different Bible Club leaders, and we, on any given Saturday or Sunday, we would have between 200 and 300 teenagers that would participate. I have a meeting every week with the Bible Club workers and all the people involved in that system as far as workers and people that would have authority. We meet with about 125 people there. We have, of course, teach them how to be productive, how to get their converts down the aisle, get them in the baptistry, get them sitting in the pew, and how to get their converts, getting their converts down the aisle. I head my own Bible club every week. We have approximately 45 teenagers that would attend that Bible club. I go from club to club week after week until I've preached to all 18 clubs. Then I start over again, and I go back through and I preach to all the clubs again. Of course, I counsel the Bible Club teenagers. I counsel them and their parents both. We have a monthly activity or rally where we'll bring all the teenagers together for one great big activity or a great big rally, and where we would have 300, 400, 500 teenagers, and I would oversee that. We have a Bible Club camp every year, and I organize that from start to finish. I work some with the Lake County Juvenile Center, where they have teenagers that would get saved there, maybe through our jail services, and we have communications where we'll try then to get them involved in the Bible Club ministry and get them active in the church. I oversee the Bible Club Teenage Soul Winning Program. I oversee the Bible Club Afternoon Program. I oversee the Bible Club Sunday night bus routes. I oversee the Bible Club Sunday morning bus routes. I oversee the Wednesday night routes that we run. I oversee our athlete outreach program for the Bible Club teenagers. I take care of course, all the budgets for all of our ministries. I prepare all the printed materials and all the advertisements and flyers that it would take to gather our crowds. Of course, I have a secretary that works for me, and I'm responsible for assigning her duties. And then youth conference time, I help with some of the behind-the-scenes type things, care for the ushering and things like that. Preacher, of course, lets us travel and do some preaching, and I travel and preach, usually to youth, and preach and teach people how to have maybe a successful Bible Club ministry. Then I oversee our junior high and high school 3 Sunday school department. I'm the superintendent there. That's the department it's especially designed for the Bible Club teenagers. I meet with the teachers and officers on Wednesday night there. I organize and prepare and plan and make sure that department runs smoothly. It's my responsibility to prepare spring, summer, and fall programs for both that department and the D-Bus teenagers and the Bible Club leaders and workers, and then the teenagers, and then for my Sweetheart Couples class. And truly, what I want to do is anything that the preacher needs done. And so, of course, we're always busy at pastor's school time. And let me say this as I close. Often, people look for leaders, and they say, well, I would like to have that person to work with me. I'll turn them into a leader. Of course, it was evident already that they were a leader. I'm glad that Brother Hyles takes nobodies like me and gives us a chance to be somebody.
The two things that any institution, any business has to have: production and service. I was coming to church this morning, had on the news radio station, and the fellow said our sales department is the best in the Chicago area, and we also have the best service department in the Chicago area. You can sell more cars than anybody in the town, but if you don't service those cars right, you won't sell cars year after year after year after year. How do you stay at a place 31 and a half years and weather the storms that we weathered here? It's the service department. And by the way, every man that works here has to be a part of both. Nobody is hired here just to be a music director. Everybody's got to produce. Every man works here. He's got to produce. I mean, aisle and water. That's it. I say this. I won't hire a man who doesn't get folks in the baptistry and who doesn't get folks in church. I'm interested in the attendance and the converts. Then we give him the job of servicing. There's a certain Oldsmobile place in town, Miss Hyles. I buy her a car, and it's her car. She drives it. And one year she bought a car at a certain Oldsmobile place. We don't buy there anymore. The Oldsmobile was fine, but she had a problem with the car, and she took it in and had it fixed. When she got it back, every time she pushed in on the brake, the radio turned on. Next time she stopped, radio turned off. And it's a little bit inconvenient. Turn radio on and off every time the brake. So we don't go there anymore. Why? No service department. We've started a new ministry in our church. It's not really refined enough for us to present it to you, but I do want you to be aware of a new ministry that we have in our church. It's a ministry to little people. We found in this area all kinds of people in this area, and we have found so many little people in this area. We've started a ministry. We're just going to, Brother McDorff is in charge of it, and he's going to tell you something about the early days of our little people ministry.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight on WFBC's Wild World of Sports, we take you into the ring here at the Highlander Square Garden for an on-the-spot interview with Lower East Side's Pride and Joy. What's your name?
My name? Hello? My name is Billy Mohammed Iron Mike Sugar Ray McDorff.
How do you like being on national TV?
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
What's so funny?
I'm an orphan.
Now, Mr. McDorff, to be the great boxer that you are today, is there some certain training you must go through?
Oh, yes, you have to be in tip-top condition all the time. I'll demonstrate. First of all, you must use the touch of the toes. Observe.
Amazing.
Then there is this sit-up. Then there is the push-up. I will show you how it's done. And when you get really good, you can clap your hands in between. Then there is the one-handed one.
Incredible. Amazing.
And if you're in tip-top condition, you can do it with your little pinky.
Ooh. Ah.
Now I'll do something seldom seen. I will do it with my hands behind my back. So there you have the, weight training too. May I have my weights, please? With the weight training, you must be careful at all times because they are very heavy. Ah! Watch the feet, fella. Observe.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You may move the weights, please.
Are you going to bench press now?
No, you may remove the weights, please.
That's incredible.
You may remove the weights. Thank you.
That's
So
an
there you
incredible
have the training.
Incredible workout you go through. I understand you have an outdoor bout in Montreal next February.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, won't that be kind of cold?
No, I'll be wearing gloves.
By the way, Canvasback, how old are you?
28.
28, okay. How did you get started in the fight business?
Well, when I was a little kid, I used to go around and I used to beat up all the kids in the neighborhood. I could beat them all up except the Joneses.
Why couldn't you beat up the Jones kids?
They were boys.
Well, now, Canvasback, how many fights have you had?
101, and I've won all but the first 100. I'm on a winning streak.
Why did you quit the fight business, Canvasback?
Well, I broke my hand.
Oh, hitting an opponent, I suppose.
No, I was laying on the mat and the referee stepped on it.
By the way, how old did you say you were?
At 38.
Now, you fought a lot of people in your time, all kinds, all sizes. What do you think about the big men?
Well, I say the big men, the bigger they are, the harder they hit.
Now, Canvasback, there's weight classes. There's a heavyweight, the lightweight, the flyweight. What weight class are you in?
The dead weight.
Have you ever fought any of the world champs?
Oh, yes, I fought Muhammad Ali one time, had him scared to death in the first round.
Wow, was it your powerful right that scared him?
No, he thought he killed me.
When you get knocked out like that, I suppose they carry you out on a stretcher.
No, it's a common thing. I have handles on my trunks.
How old did you say you were?
I'm 48.
There's a lot of news today about fixing fights. Has anyone ever asked you to throw one?
Yeah, I was fighting Mike Tyson, and when I was fighting him, they asked me to take a dive in the 6th round.
But you didn't do it, did you?
No, I didn't make it past the 3rd.
Has anything unusual ever happened to you?
Yes, one time I was fighting Sugar Ray Leonard. He hit me in the nose, but I didn't. In the 3rd round, he hit me in the nose, but I didn't bleed till the 6th round.
How come?
It's tired blood.
I understand most boxers wear a mouthpiece. Does that ever give you any trouble?
Only when I eat.
How old are you?
I'm 58.
Listen, I've got a kid, 14 years old. He wants to get into boxing. Have you got any advice for him?
Yes, what you do is you live clean, eat right, sleep right, breathe in and out, breathe in and out. You stop that more than 3 minutes, you're in trouble. And go around, beat up everybody you can see.
Beat up any people?
Well, just people that are littler than you, and little kids and stuff, and kick dogs is good for the footwork.
Do you have any closing advice that you'd want to share with us?
Yes, I would. I would like to remind you to live clean, be right, drink a lot of water, breathe in and out, and remember, support the Canvas Back College Fund, because a mine is a terrible thing.
Well, thank you for that. Tune in again next week to WFBC's Wild World of Sports. Thank you so much.
The proceeding has been a production of the Sports Department of WBTU, recognized around the world for fouling things up.
All right. I can do it again. Look at there, boy. That's the way all of us feel like doing, isn't it? That's tonight about bedtime. That's what all of us are going to do. Okay. Probably the most overlooked male member of our staff is Brother Bill Shutt. Brother Bill is deaf. And because of that, it's a little difficult for us to be as, well, we just can't converse with him like we can the others. But this is a great guy. He's a nut, really. He's a screwball. He's crazy. He's lost the cheese out of his sandwich, but Bill Shutt is a great guy. Maxine Jeffrey started our deaf work, but we got to the place that we felt we needed a pastor. Maxine still is the organizer of the work, but Bill is the pastor. He does to the deaf what you do to your people in your church. We love him, and he's going to tell you something about his responsibilities.
My name is Bill Shutt. Brother Hyles gives me a lot of duties to do, and I want to show you what they are. Okay. I worked for Brother Hyles for 18 years, and I've been the deaf pastor for 12 years. That's just a joke. I don't have all those duties. I'm in charge of the opening of our Sunday school department each Sunday. Last Sunday, we had 286 in our deaf department. Our highest attendance was 403. I teach 2 classes, adult classes, and one in Sunday School A and one in Sunday School B. I preach to the Chicago teenagers during the same time Brother Hyles preaches here. And I am the superintendent of Sunday School B. I oversee our soul winning program. We have what we call our Ephatha Club. It's a trainer-trainee program. And we have a meeting every Sunday evening at 5:30 to 6, where we bring in our reports. And then on Sunday afternoon from 6 to 6:50, I have a Bible study for deaf only. I oversee 15 van routes for our deaf. Wednesday night and Sunday night, we pick up deaf for our services, and Brother Shutt plans and makes sure they're here and oversees that. He's also a substitute driver for our bus routes or van routes. On Saturday morning, our bus route ministry, as well as our soul winning ministry, we meet at 8 o'clock, and Brother Shutt is in charge of all of our soul winning programs in the deaf ministry. We have here a ladies' circle, missionary circle called WMS, and as you know, most deaf ladies, older ladies, do not drive. Brother Shutt picks them up and brings them to the meeting monthly. They have a group of the Silent Senior Saints, which are deaf over 50. He helps organize and is over that ministry in fun time. I plan and I oversee our monthly activities for young adults who are deaf. I do the deaf weddings. I do the deaf funerals. Yesterday, we had a funeral service for the young man that was killed Monday by the train. Brother Shutt had that yesterday. I counsel with deaf. I visit the deaf in the hospitals. I visit the deaf who are shut-ins. I go to the jail when we have deaf in them. He doesn't stay. You don't stay in jail. You just visit, okay? He does all the layout work for all of our promotion, our flyers, our revival sheets. He does all of that. Twice yearly, we have a little paper called the Deaf Echoes, and again, he is responsible to get those out. He doesn't type it, but he mails it and separates it and gets it cared for, and keeps the computer up to date with the names. We have a camp we attend in Iowa. Brother Shutt is the camp preacher during the week for the deaf. He also does traveling to other churches to encourage them in their deaf ministry and to preach revivals. He is a teacher at Hyles College part-time. He teaches Monday and Tuesday a Bible class for our deaf students. He also teaches Monday night. I love Brother Hyles. When I graduated, I was the first deaf to graduate from Hyles Anderson College in '75. I love Hyles Anderson College. It's great. Last fall, we started again opening with the deaf, and we have 10 deaf students and 10 in our evening class. Our students want to go to Bible college. I want to encourage you to send your deaf students to Hyles Anderson College. I teach Monday night class, as I said before, a Bible study. And anything that Brother Hyles wants me to do, I do. Brother Hyles, thank you for permitting me to be a part of the world's greatest church and the best pastor. I love you.
Hey, Bill. Bill? Oh, he is a hearing aid where he can hear some sounds, but not enough to communicate. He didn't have it for a long time. He found out he could at least hear some sounds, and so I try to get him to turn around when I holler at him. And I'll tell him, "You're not deaf. There's no way nowhere." But he knows the tricks. I wish everybody could stay at a church 31 and a half years. I wish everybody could see them grow up. I wish everybody could. In fact, that's one thing that grieves me about growing older. Every time our little children's choirs sing, I wonder if I'll get to be their pastor when they're grown. But I've enjoyed it tremendously, watching our young folks grow up. And one of the biggest blessings has been watching Ed Lapina grow up. Some kind of guy, really is. I doubt if anybody, any group of people anywhere have more fun with each other than our staff has. Our staff meetings are work meetings, but they're also fun meetings. And one of the guys that makes it most fun is Ed Lapina. He's just like my own child, my own son. I love him that much. I'm glad he's with us. He's a great guy, a hard worker, and he's going to share with you his responsibilities.
Hi. Thank you. I'm in charge of the hunting and fishing ministries here at the church. And if it's fun, I get to do it and make sure of it. If it's hard, I let Ray Young do it. You're laughing with Jeff Rhodes down here, but I, of all places up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, took a group of boys canoeing, and way out in the woods, way up on the river near Lake Superior, we run into Jeff Rhodes and his youth group, and so he's toughing it out like I do. But I enjoy working here. I have for the past 14 years. Grew up in First Baptist Church, and I love the teenagers with all my heart. And that is my main responsibility here, is to work with our 8 young people. I'm the youth pastor here. I work with the junior high and high school youth activities, which involves many different things. I'm not going into all the activities, but throughout the entire year, I plan to organize all of those. I work with the summer camps our young people go to for the junior high and high school A young people, and then also for the B, C, and D teenagers. We run, operate a camp. I'm in charge of the staff and the food preparation and program for the camp as well. In the fall, we have a school camp. Many of you are familiar with that type of camping program, and I set that up and help run that part of the program. And I run 5 banquets per year for graduation banquets and Valentine's banquets. I'm in charge of the youth budget. I also have some part in the music program here. I'm director of high school ensemble. We practice on Monday nights, and then I have also the high school choir, which we practice Wednesday evenings before the church service. And I also conduct the young adult ensemble. It's a group that sang Monday night just before the film. We practice on Saturday mornings in that. I get to lead singing in our high school chapels at Hammond Baptist High School. And then probably the biggest delight I have throughout the week is that of our teenage soul winning program on Saturday mornings. At 10 o'clock we meet here. I'm in charge of the drivers for that. Once a year I'm in charge of setting up what we call a teenage soul winning marathon. I explained that the other day. And we'll go out soul winning all day long. I also have, I'm a teacher of a young married couples class, meets across the street every Sunday morning. And in that we also have a soul winning program on Thursday evenings. I oversee the Young Fundamentalist program and for junior high and high school, which is our training union, which might be you're familiar with. We meet just before the evening service, 1 hour before the evening service every Sunday night, and we teach Bible principles and practical lessons for Christian living and so forth. I teach the high schoolers. I have another man that teaches the junior hires, and then out at our schools, I have some part out there in the high school. I coach wrestling at Hammond Baptist High School and practice 4 nights a week, which involves 7 dual meets and 5 tournaments throughout the year, and it lasts about a period of 3.5 months. I am also one of the photographers for the high school yearbook. I teach Christian manhood at Hyles Anderson College. I teach 2 youth courses at Hyles Anderson, Youth Ministries 1, Youth Ministries 2, each a semester course. Then I also preach in the chapels, in college chapel, and high school chapel, and in junior high as well. I work with Brother Hyles on Vacation Bible School, and he makes me be Silly Billy. And then also I conduct a youth revival once a year here at the church for our teenagers, just our regular 8 teenagers, for 5 nights in the spring. And then I oversee the B, C, and D teenage ministries. Now what that is, that's basically the Sunday school and church services and afternoon programs for our bus teenagers. We have 3 services, 3 Sunday schools, 3 superintendents, and 3 preachers that preach in each of those services on Sunday afternoon, or Sunday morning rather. And while the services are going on down here, we start down there with 3 different services and Sunday schools. We have over 21 teachers, 3 departments, 3 superintendents, and so forth. I preach in the B service, and 2 other preachers preach in. One preaches in B, one preaches in C, and one preaches in D. And then I oversee the afternoon programs. Let's see, Pam Hibbert takes care of the girls program, and Tim Sanchez takes care of the boys, but I oversee all that. And also the youth transportation, which involves basically just 2 buses and a van. And we have across the alley here, if you've gone over there for any of the snacks or anything, we have what we call our teen center. We acquired that about 6 years ago, and I'm in charge of that building. And then I teach, as I mentioned already, the young married couples class, which is Brother Jeff Owens mentioned that he teaches a sweetheart couples class. About every 7-10 years, we start a new couples class. Mine is for the older young couples, and Brother Jeff Owens' class is for the newer ones, and so I teach that on Sunday mornings during Sunday school time. One of the biggest blessings throughout the year, though, is our youth conference that Brother Hyles and I conduct, and I count it a real honor to have the opportunity to work with him on that, and have for the past 10 years now, and it's a wonderful opportunity. And let me say this in closing. The youth conference is a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. I'm in charge of the brochure, which you've seen the other morning here, and organizing all and conducting all the events and recruiting workers. And let me finish up with this, if you would. Our youth conference is July 24th, 25th, and 26th. We have the brochures that are out for that. If you did not receive one in room 200, there'll be a table there that will have some brochures. If you did not receive one, if you would stop by and get a brochure, it'll give you all of the information that you'll need. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to write me or call me. But I think it would do your teenagers a world of good if they were to come to youth conference this summer. We have, for the past 2 years, had over 6,000 teenagers and workers attend. And even before that, we were up around 4,000 to 5,000. The last 2 years, the Lord's really blessed, and we've just had a phenomenal number of young people, many of whom get called in full-time Christian service, all of whom get their hearts challenged and preached to by, I think, some of the finest preaching in the world. And Brother Hyles conducts all the services, and it will do, I promise you, it will do your youth group a world of good if you come. And that'll be July 24, 25, and 26. It doesn't cost you a thing to attend, and all you have to do is provide your own transportation, provide your own meals and lodging, but we do not charge any registration fee for the conference. We'll have a wonderful evening on Thursday night at Hyles Anderson College with a nice fireworks show and sing around the lake in a beautiful, beautiful setting. So we hope that you would plan on attending this summer. Thank you.
A few observations. One is we do not count anybody in Sunday school who's not on this property. If we hold a rescue mission Sunday school, that's not counted in our attendance. If you ever hear how many we have in a Sunday school, that's the number of people who are on this property. Another thing, we don't count Sunday school attendance if we don't have Sunday school. If we have a big rally here, for example, on Sunday morning and don't have classes, we do not count that in our attendance. The Sundays that we had, for example, one Sunday we had 118,000 people that were in Sunday school classes all across the area. We didn't count that in our annual average attendance. We don't do that. We only count Sunday school as Sunday school, and we only count the Sunday schools we have here on our own property. Now, we use terms sometimes, and folks don't know what they mean. You've heard about WMS circles, and people ask me, what's a WMS circle? That's just another word for club. We have our Women's Missionary Society has several different clubs, and so we have meetings. I think we have 7, 8, 9, 10. We call them circles, but just another word for clubs. Our staff meeting, Thursdays that I'm in town, which is probably 3/4 of the time, we have a staff meeting at 11:30. We sit around a circle, a big circle. This is the church staff now. Sit around a big circle, and we vote on Thursday morning what we'll have for lunch that day. Usually it's some kind of a sandwich or soup or salad or something, and then we sit there and eat and start the work, and then we discuss the work. Then we have every other Saturday evening at 6:45 a male staff meeting. That's the second and fourth Saturday evenings. We have a male staff meeting. All the men you've been seeing today, and we'll see all of these men and others who head our departments. We have a meeting with them. That's every second and fourth Saturday evening at 6:45. Then every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, I meet with our school principals, the principals of our high school, junior high, grade school, and City Baptist, and we meet together along with Assistant Superintendent Brother Bob O'Clair. Then that's at 8 o'clock. At 9:15, I meet with Brother Ray Young. He and I meet to discuss college business. At 10 o'clock, Dr. Evans and I meet to discuss his part of the college business. Dr. Evans taking care of the academics, and I oversee everything in the college except the academics, and Brother Young works for me and in that area. So Dr. Evans and I meet at 10 o'clock every Saturday morning, and then at 10:45, Dr. Jorgensen comes in, the vice president, and we have the administrative committee meeting from 10:45 to usually around 12:31, sometimes even later than that. Now, right in your seat when you got here this morning, there's some cards. Did you get those cards? I wish you'd fill those cards out right now. Do me a big favor and fill them out. It has to do with the paper, the reclaimer. We were supposed to do it last night, but we got some. We got our wires crossed. I'm trying to think of something to say. Got our wires crossed, and we didn't get to do it. So help me with that, if you would, please. Just take that card, and if it applies to you pastors, I hope if you're assistant pastor and feel the liberty to do it, I hope you'll take care of that. Fill that card out right now, if you would, please. I believe we're going to beat that 1 o'clock hour today of getting out, so if you'll just stay with us, I think you'll be glad you did. Ushers, would you get those cards, please, for me? Just pass the cards in. Please do that for me, because David Gibbs wants to do it, and I'll get in trouble with David Gibbs. As you know, when he gets mad, he says bad words, so... Boy, is there a place to make out a check on there? They'll bill you, I'm sure. I'm not very important in this group. I just go to it and preach at the meetings is all I do. David Gibbs is the guy really is spending his time on this, reclaim the name. Of course, Brother Garrick Enough is the guy that God gave the idea and the vision to. I want to thank you for staying all the way through. I realize that a lot of people leave after the Thursday night service, but you stayed all the way through, and I want to thank you very much for your staying. All right. Pass those cards in, and fellas, if you'll see to it that my secretary gets those cards, I'd appreciate that. Just Mrs. McKinney. Let me take just this. Go ahead, fellas, get the cards first. And okay. If you're waiting on somebody, that's fine, but otherwise go ahead and take the cards back to the back. We're going to give some time for question and answers. Oh, sure, no problem. You can send it to me, just to hear it, just send it to me personally. For years, for many years, I opened all of my mail addressed to me personally. When the battle came, I mean the big one that we're in now, when that came, I feel I must, please listen now, I feel I must walk in this pulpit on top side. That's the most important thing in this church, is that I walk in this pulpit on top side. Because of that, I shield myself from a lot of the battle. You hear more about the battle than I do. I hear about it, but I shield myself from most of it. And so for the first time in all of my ministry, I've never liked it, but first time, Miss McKinney, she opens my letters and she reads them. And if they're nasty and not letters, if they're critical and kindly critical and want an explanation from a reasonable person, I'll see them. But if they're just nasty letters, I never see them. I do everything I can to see to it when I walk in the pulpit. My people are trained. Don't bring me a bunch of bad news. And if it's not correctable and it's bad, I don't want to know about it. If it's correctable, then I want to know about it. But all right, let me just say this too about the staff. It's a little talk I make to my staff every once in a while. When I first began preaching, I did everything, all of it. I mean, I built the fire in the stove in the middle of the church. I printed the bulletin. I was the custodian. I cleaned the building, turned the lights on, turned the lights off. And one day I hired me a custodian. Now I'm going to let this suppose this were a circle right here. I'm going to let this represent the office of pastor. Well, I was doing all those things. But one day, I think I'll do it a little better for you. I'll draw a circle here. This is the office of pastor right here. So one day, I hired me a custodian. I gave him a little of my duties. So there he has a little piece of the pie there. All right, so to me, the office of pastor is not a man, it's a position. It's an office. So now we have two people that form the office of pastor. One day I hired me a secretary. So I gave her, I was printing the bulletin, typing all the letters, and so forth. And the other day somebody mailed me the manuscript of my book on Revelation. Let's study the Revelation. And the original manuscript, 1952, I think it was. And good night, almost 40 years old. And I typed all that manuscript myself. I did all the typing. So I hired me a secretary. Now there are three of us that have formed the office of pastor. You see, I'm not the pastor here. We're the pastor here. Because they're doing things that I used to do. So one by one, I've had to relinquish duties. One of the hardest things I ever did was relinquish the hospital calling. I had to relinquish some duties. And I used to be youth director here. I had to relinquish that. And one time, believe it or not, I was music director of a church in Texas. We couldn't sing, but we sure were organized. And so one at a time, I have had to give up some of the things that I used to do. But all of us form the pastor. First time I ever made this little talk, we had 14 members on our staff. And I remember Mrs. Colston wrote me a note about something in her office memo, and she signed it 1/14 of the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Hammond, Indiana. And that's exactly what she was. Now, she's been demoted through the years. She's 567th now. But we all are the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Hammond. I happen to hold the title, but it's not a title. It is an office, and all of us work together to form that office. The largest church in the state of Indiana is the First Baptist Church of Hammond. Second largest church in the state of Indiana is the Spanish department of First Baptist Church of Hammond. And by the way, probably one of the 25 largest churches in America. And Brother Elmer Fernandez was with us for so many years. And when he left, God gave us a wonderful young man, born and reared in Mexico. and came to America to go to college, and Brother Victor Hernandez. He's going to tell you what his duties are.
Hace falta que alguien se pare aquí y predique en español en este lugar, hermano. Hace falta que alguien grite aquí que viva México. ¿Dónde están los hispanos? A ver, ¿dónde están? Pónganse de pie y griten todos los hispanos aquí. Esta gente está dormida aquí en este día. ¿Dónde están los hispanos? This is so that you go back home and you see that the Holy Spirit was here in this place, totally in complete control. Déjame, te doy algunas de las responsabilidades que yo tengo en el departamento hispano. Esto va a ser exclusivo para los hispanos en esta mañana. El resto de ellos se quedaron dormidos ya, so vamos a meterle mano aquí. Pastor de la iglesia, responsable de cada uno de los ministerios que suceden ahí. El club de los pescadores. Y bueno, cada vez que menciono un ministerio, digan amén para que los americanos se despierten un poquito, ¿ok? Club de los pescadores, supervisando cada uno de los ministerios, a las sembradoras, el grupo de las sembradoras, el ministerio de la cárcel, la visitación de jóvenes en Chicago, la escuela dominical, la junta de maestros, junta de superintendentes, conducir el programa de otoño y primavera. Que predique, hermano, que predique, amén. Esta gente se queda a la mitad del vuelo aquí. Estaban muy alegres a ir por la noche, pero míralos ahora, todos están durmiendo aquí. Amén. Ok. Exit. They want me to exit you now. Ganadores de alma, ¿no? Amén. Los trabajadores en el bautisterio, encargados de conducir el campamento cada año, la escuela bíblica de verano, las clases de extensión del Hyles Anderson College. No me diga que ustedes también se me están durmiendo ahora, ¿no? Estamos tratando de despertar a esta gente aquí, se me están durmiendo también ustedes, ¿no? See, the Holy Spirit is in control now. Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands now. Let me see your hands up. How many? Let me see. Right there, right there. The rest of you, you're not getting it yet. So you need to raise your. Let me see your hands up. Let me see your hands up. I want everybody to see the full picture. The Holy Spirit is taking control in here right now. So. Okay. Okay, encargado de nuestra librería también. Las finanzas de la iglesia. El hermano Julio limpia los edificios. Tengo que andar detrás del hermano Julio porque se queda dormido en los edificios, ¿no? Dígamelo. Hermanos, esto no es un carnaval, hermano. Esto es una iglesia. Estamos serios aquí. Allá el circo, allá están los payasos en el circo. Si no, mira, ahí está uno aquí, el hermano Ezequiel les puede tirar un chiste ahí. Ok. They don't let me say anything. They just...
Any questions? That's the first thing been said this week nobody disagreed with. Didn't you hear him? You heard the same thing I did. So, you're idiots. You're all idiots. You wouldn't have come here. Thank you, ma'am. All right. We have another homegrown one to tell you his responsibilities. We have a McKinney family. They've about taken over this church. Irma McKinney is my secretary. Keith McKinney is one of our assistant pastors. His sister, Gail Murhowski, is on our staff. His father is in charge of the stewardship department at the college, and they pretty well run this thing. I got to tell you a story. Keith is not as old as you think he is. He's 36. He's 37. They call him, what do they call you, Mission? At Mission, they call him Dad because he has his graduates premature. But one of the funniest things is, when he was 29, he took his, he looked just like it is now. He took his son out to eat one day, and a little lady walked up, and she said, "Oh, how nice. It's good to see a grandfather spend some time with his grandson." And Keith looked at her and said, "Ma'am, this is not my grandson, it's my son." And she said, "Well, that's right." She said, "Men are getting married older these days." And he said, "Ma'am, I'm just 29. And she said, "Aren't we all?" This guy is one of the funniest men that ever breathed. Now, you don't see it. It doesn't come out on the platform. This guy's got the sharpest humor of anybody on our staff. He keeps us in stitches most all the time, I'll tell you for sure. Most all of it's clean. But no joke. He does. He has the quickest mind, and I love him. I've been his pastor since he was 5 years old. Keith McKinney.
Thank you, Brother Hyles. My duties here at the church are a little different. I'm almost probably my best title would be eclectic or miscellaneous, I think. First off, I'm church host. Now, what's a church host do? Whenever we have special guests in town, we make arrangements at the hotel for them. We make sure that all the things get in the room that Brother Hyles has told us to put in their room, like the candy and the fruit, the flowers, nuts, and so forth. Pick them up at the airport, chauffeur them around, and basically we're their servant while they're here in town. Anything they need to do, anything they want to do, we make sure that they get to do it. One of my duties, I'm sort of the in-house pastor. That's more of a description than a title. Anybody that walks in off the street or calls in and says they need to see a pastor during the day, I'm the one that they get to see. Not much of one, but I'm the one they get to see. Of course, I'm the only one that doesn't take appointments for that sort of thing. I recruit Sunday school teachers, the lady Sunday school teachers, which entails us making recommendation to Brother Hyles on who to have as a Sunday school teacher. After his approval, we make the recommendation to the superintendent. We check and make sure that our percentage is correct. First Baptist Church, we try not to, well, we don't try, we do, make sure that our Sunday school departments don't get overloaded with school personnel, not just college, but also high school and grade school. We make sure that our school personnel is kept to under 25%. So we check with the percentage with the superintendent at that time. Then we approach the prospective Sunday school teacher and enlist them and make the announcement in the teachers meeting. I also manage our lease car fleet, and this is hardly work for me because I love cars so much. It's almost more of a hobby for me. But the department heads between the college, church, and the schools, we have some automobiles that the department heads drive, and so I make the deals, line up the leases, and deliver, license, title clerk all the vehicles, make sure everybody's got insurance, and oversee the problems that would arise with the lease car fleet. I act as liaison with our city, which means that I'm the messenger from Brother Hyles to the mayor and from the mayor to Brother Hyles. I attend the economic development meetings of the city of Hammond, which are one of the most boring things you can ever do in your life. If any of you ever have problems sleeping, go to these meetings. They're great. They really are. It really gives you confidence in your city. When the guy that's in charge shows up with his, looks like he just propped the lawnmower up against the house and came to the meeting. Yeah, they're really encouragements. I take care of our food room here at the church. Yeah. Need I say more, right? I haven't missed too many meals in my life, you know. Yeah, preacher's my assistant. But once a year we have a food drive here at First Baptist on a Sunday. We get trucks and boxes and so forth, and the people bring canned goods, and we take care of the storing and the sorting of the canned goods. And then through the year, if a person is a member of the church or someone a member asks to help, and as long as in either case they're not on food stamps, we give them a food box for their family. I'm also rescue mission director, which takes a lot of my time. Oversee the signing in of the fellas. I told preacher soon after I became the director that I think the prerequisite of being a rescue mission director was when I was junior high youth director here. So many times I feel like a camp counselor trying to pull these guys off of each other. But we take care of the problems, make sure that the fellas get witnessed to when they walk in the door. Oversee the preaching schedule at the mission. We have over 25 men that preach every month for me at the mission. Here again, I oversee the menu at the rescue mission to make sure that the fellas are eating right. Anytime we have a fellow that comes in that is coming off of alcohol or drugs, of course, we have different menus that we put them on. We don't believe in taking a man down with drugs or any other kind of stimulus, other than the fact that we will make sure that he's eating right, put the minerals back in that the alcohol or the drugs took out of him. Other than that, we hand him a Bible and tell him to read it. And that's our program in a nutshell. It's amazing that when you talk to the people like Tri-City Mental Health, they look at you and you tell them what you do, and they say, well, that thing doesn't work. And yeah, it's okay. You just go on your own way. I'll tell you about the fellows that we help. I schedule and oversee their work. As I mentioned before, when we talked about the rescue mission, we mow the grass and shovel the snow for our widows here in the church. The fellows help Brother Randy here around the property, just doing anything that Brother Randy needs them to do. The fellows run errands for the church. We take care of unloading any trucks. We also take care of the baptistry laundry here at the church. One of my duties at the rescue mission is to find donations of food. We get soup from Campbell's Soup every 3 months and that sort of thing. Ongoing, trying to just do what we can there. We also, people will give us appliances and furniture, and most of this we don't even keep. Most of this we just act as a clearinghouse. It'll come in, and with a church this size, we always have somebody that's going through a hard time where they either their home burned down and they need a stove and they need a refrigerator and they need some furniture, or some catastrophe has happened in their life to where we just pass this stuff on as soon as we get it. Of course, I oversee the budget and ride herd on that. Oversee the maintenance of the building, make sure that the building is being taken care of. And one of the things that I really have to spend some time on is to make sure that the guy's health is what it should be. These fellas have run their bodies in the ground, and we have to try to rebuild that too. One of my duties here that I enjoy doing, and many times I do it with my father, and that's to help with the purchasing of buildings in downtown Hammond for the church. On Wednesday night, I get to read the missionary letter to our people, which means that I've scheduled that and edited the letters to make them more readable, and then we read them every Wednesday night. I get a lot of special projects. The bow in front of the church, for instance, was a special project. There's things like that come up all the time. Brother Hyles will ask me to do. On Sundays, I'm in the Sunday school office during Sunday school, taking care of making sure the attendances are turned in, and also helping with the coordination of promotion on Sunday mornings. It's been a blessing working at First Baptist Church. I was thinking when preacher was introducing me, the first time I remember seeing Brother Hyles, actually I didn't see him, I felt him. I was about 5 years old, and I was laying in the hospital with pneumonia. And I can remember, just like it was yesterday, Brother Hyles putting his hand on my back and praying for me. From that time till this, I knew that that man loved me. And it's, this is not, preacher will get up here and make a wisecrack that I don't work, but really, this is not work. I mean, I'd do this for him. Well, I don't know if I'd do it for him if I didn't get paid or not, but like to say that I'd do it for them if I didn't get paid.
All right, we're going to take just a few minutes now to let you ask any question about the whole week, and I'll do what I can to answer it. All right? I'm going to ask you, everybody stands up to holler at me, okay? Go ahead. Yes, the church operates on a budget. My financial secretary draws up a proposed budget. She presents it to me. I work on it. I present it to the deacons. They work on it. They present it to the church, and they vote on it. And each of these departments has money allocated from the church budget. Now, some of these departments have ways they raise money. For example, we charge a nominal fee for youth activities, and that helps the youth department. But we operate on a church budget. That means that a portion of the church offering goes to each of these ministries, and they operate each operates his own budget within the big budget. It's a one big large church budget. All right, all right. First question I heard, do I ordain deacons? We do not ordain them anymore. We used to, but it bothered me. A fellow got the idea if he's a deacon for life, and I don't believe that anymore. There was a day when I believed that years ago, many years ago. I'm talking about like 30 years ago. And I got that Southern Baptist. And Southern Baptist idea, when I was a young preacher, if you were a deacon in one church and joined another church, you're supposed to be a deacon there. That bothered the fire out of me. So we don't ordain deacons anymore. We elect deacons, but we don't ordain them. Second question? A book on form letters? Well, I used 2 years ago. Yeah, I think it's out of print. Sword of the Lord used to print it. I think it's out of print. But we do not have any now. That book on Let's Use Forms and Letters is way, way out of date. All right, somebody else quickly? Sir? I didn't hear you. Question's out of order. Huh? No, I would not tell you when I do it. I cannot tell anybody when I do anything because my life is threatened so much that I cannot tell anybody. There's no way I'd stand up here and announce to you when I pray. I do an awful lot of praying on Saturday, an awful lot of praying on Sunday, but I could not tell you what time. I could not tell you where. But I never walk to the pulpit on Sunday without having spent at least 20 hours a week in prayer. That's my number one priority. I may not get everything done. I probably have right now 300 letters on my desk that have not been answered yet. It'll take me days and maybe even weeks to answer them. I don't give that first priority. The first priority in my life is my prayer time. Second priority in my life is my preparation for sermons. That's second priority. Everything else takes a lesser place in my schedule. Always does. If my people need to have a man who's been with God behind the pulpit on Sunday, and number two, they need to have a man who thinks about their needs and prepares what he thinks will fill their needs on Sunday. But my schedule cannot be told. There's no way for you to understand that. But I live under threats most of my life. Okay? Uh-huh. Well, I will not take anybody by transfer, pardon me, of membership unless he has been baptized scripturally. And I think to be baptized scripturally, you have to be, it has to be a fundamental church. Now, I know some churches that don't call themselves Baptists that are Baptists. I know some churches that call themselves Baptists that aren't Baptists. So I take it to the individual church. As best I can, I try to find out what type of church, what kind of church a church is that folks join our church from. And if they have not been baptized scripturally, I simply tell them that we feel like you've not been baptized scripturally. And if it doesn't mean enough to you to get baptized to join this church, you probably would be a good member anyway. But that's my position. I don't just take Baptist baptism. I know, I'll say this, up in this area, I'll guarantee you that a good percentage of the Baptist churches are liberal. So if it says Baptist, that doesn't mean much to me, because it doesn't mean necessarily they're fundamental. Sir? We baptize anybody that gets saved. Somebody said one time, they criticized me for being opposed to infant baptism. I said, I'm not opposed to infant baptism. First 6-month-old baby crawls down this aisle, says, I've been born again, I'm a sinner. I know I'm a sinner, I know I'm lost, I've trusted Christ as my Savior. We'll baptize him that morning. It's not infant baptism that bothers me, it's unbelievers' baptism that bothers me. Louder. Louder, please. You're not louder. Raise the volume. Louder means talk. I don't think a teenager ought to wait a day before he goes into college. I'll guarantee you that 50%, or more than that, I'd say 90% of all the young people that wait to go to college don't go to college. You ought to go right straight. Uh-huh. Say it. Yeah. Well, I have to give you a Bible study for that. Yes, I think there are things that a man can do that should disqualify him from ever pastoring again. But it'd take a Bible study for me to tell you what they are. Yes, I think so. I think there are things a man can do that would disqualify him from ever pastoring again. All right. I could elaborate, but don't know what you want me to say. Oh. If you got 10 years to sit down and talk to me, I can't give you a list of every book in the world I wouldn't want you to read. My name Watchman Nee. I'd rather you read Harry Emerson Fosdick than Watchman Nee. Because you know Harry Emerson Fosdick is a liberal. C.S. Lewis, for example, will do you more harm than Norman Vincent Peale will. Because you know Norman Vincent Peale is a liberal. I think that, okay, you know what a new evangelical is? Don't read one of their books. Swindoll would be a good place to start stopping. You see, there's so much froth today. I mean, so much showmanship and shallow. It's psychology. It's what it is. So much of it today. It's sickening. You know, I like to see a man. You know what preach means? Preach in you. You can tell it. Some folks have to, when they preach, have to work at it. But there's some people. You say some people say, and God loves you, but some can't say it that way. They've got to say, God loves you. God loves you. I mean, you just can't say it the other way. You call that preach, you see. And, yeah, all right. Preach, preach, preach. Yes, sir. When I was a young preacher, just starting out, had no staff, I spent every morning in prayer and study, and every afternoon knocking on doors, soul winning. And then 2 nights a week from 6 to 9. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, back in those days, folks were better. 6 to 9, I spent out soul winning. Every morning till noon, I spent the time in Bible study and prayer. Every afternoon, out on the field. A little louder, please. Yes, sir. Every week I go soul winning. But don't tell anybody when. We have folks all over this church that I've won to Christ, but I don't tell anybody when. And don't tell anybody who either, usually. None. I think a man ought to be older than young before he has a set of commentaries. I use I have a set of old Adam Clark commentaries. Adam Clark was a contemporary of, I think he was, of John Wesley. I know he used to pastor the Wesley Chapel in London. And I have a set of Matthew Henry. I have a set of the pulpit commentary. I rarely ever look at them. Rarely ever. I'm not a commentary man. I'm just not. I'll tell you the books I use the most. The book I use the most other than the Bible is the Cruden's Concordance. I'll tell you the books I use every day of my life when I'm at home. I use every day the Bible, Cruden's Concordance, my Greek New Testament, my Bible dictionary, and that's about the size of it. Oh, no, I'm sorry, and a Webster's dictionary. Those books I keep right at my fingertips all the time. I'm not a Greek scholar, but I know enough Greek where I can read it, and I like to. I just like to look at it every once in a while, and see, for example, I read the word church in the Bible. Well, I want to look up and see what that word is, and I want to be sure that I say to you that the word church in the verse is ecclesia. So I know enough about Greek to look it up, and when I get to the word in that verse, if I see the word ecclesia, then I can substantiate what I'm saying. Yes, sir. I really can't answer that. We'll have to cut something, but we will not cut the substance of the pastor school, but we'll have to cut something. I just don't know about that. For my people and their relationship with their families, but I do not pastor the staff more than I pastor the non-staff. Women don't teach boys in this church in any Sunday school class. When a child's old enough to go to a class, he then is taught by a man. So now it may be that when a child, like a little child that can't sit still, he's too little to sit still, he runs around, and they try to catch him and teach him something. A woman will do that. But once a child sits in a class situation, That boy is taught by a man, always. See that? My mother was saved many years ago at a Methodist church. I don't think she was saved by personal soul winning, probably a preaching service. I do not recall, do not know her ever telling me, but I do know she was saved in a Methodist church back when Methodist churches were old-fashioned churches, way back there. See, my mother was born 22 years after the Civil War ended. So if my mother had lived, she'd be 104 years old now. So in those days, you see, gentlemen and ladies, soul winning was lost. The soul winning church was lost for 1900 years. The evangelistic church took its place. I said this yesterday. It really shocks folks. And I meant to say it yesterday. Dwight L. Moody was far greater Christian than I am, but he never belonged to a New Testament church. Billy Sunday never belonged to a New Testament church. And I'll tell you something else too. Most of those fellas had never even seen a church like you and I have. Because in those days, the church was a worship place. And at best, it was an evangelistic center. When I was a young man, the good church was the evangelistic church. With that, you brought your unsaved people to church, and the preacher preached them down the aisle. The soul winning church is the church where you win them out on the field, and then you bring them Sunday. The preacher preaches to the Christians, and you bring the sinners down the aisle. I preached the sermon last Sunday to the morning to the unsaved. I don't do that 3 times a year. I preach all my sermons except on very special occasions to the saved. So my job is to keep the orchard in good shape so it can bear fruit. And the fruit falls off the tree, and we bring it down the aisle on Sunday. But that's the soul-winning church. See, the difference in an evangelistic church and a soul-winning church, the evangelistic church preaches them down the aisle. The soul-winning church goes out and wins them to Christ and brings them down the aisle. Now, the soul-winning church was lost until our generation. Spurgeon did not pastor a soul-winning church. J. Frank Norris did not pastor a soul-winning church. The soul-winning church, where the people go out and win them, is a phenomenon of the last 35, 40 years. And it's come back from the New Testament days. All right, I have just a little while longer, all right? What we do is, once a month, we vote folks into the church. And those who are baptized are presented to the church once a month. Now, you have to understand, when you baptize 8,000 folks in a year, you got 600 or 700 that you got to vote in the church at business meeting. We don't even read their names. We have them on a list. I tell the folks how many. We vote them in once a month at our church business meeting. Well, I don't know. We have the biggest Catholic diocese in the world here. I don't spend any time, very little time telling about cults. I teach my folks Bible truths and let them apply them to people. I'll give you an example. This way, I teach my people separation, and then they'll know how I feel on a situation. When Billy Graham came to town, this has been years ago, they didn't even send anybody by to see if I'd cooperate. Nobody. They didn't call me. They didn't write me a letter. Oh, shut up. Because, see, and my deacon chairman was out soul winning one day during the revival. And somebody asked him, said, is your church cooperating in the Billy Graham, is your pastor cooperating in the Billy Graham crusade? And my deacon chairman said, don't know. I doubt if my pastor knows Billy Graham's in town. He's too busy. Nobody doubts our position here. But no, I don't spend a lot of time teaching folks how to win the cultist. I think the old Roman road's good for everybody. I went to college, spent 6 weeks learning how to handle Jehovah's Witness, and haven't seen one since I got out of college. We win Jehovah's Witnesses just like we win atheists and unbelievers and Catholics, everybody else. Same old Roman road over and over again. Say it again. Oh, that was not you. You almost put me in there with the charismatic, son. I know what you're talking about. It's found in Daniel, and it says that in those days that they shall do great exploits. I was simply saying that I didn't say it'd be a great revival in the last days. I said in the last days it'd probably be time when you could do more for God than you could. Folks do great things for God. It says that we'll do great exploits is the word it uses. But I'm not talking about like the charismatics, the latter rain, the former rain, all that stuff. But I just believe that this is the easiest day in the world ever has known to win folks to Christ. I believe that with all my heart. Where sin does abound, grace does much more abound. Who would have thought those doctors up here the morning were hungry? Who would have thought a doctor would let his patient sit out there for an hour because he needed somebody? Who would have thought that dentist had been on dope and needed somebody to talk to him? Waiting for one little patient, a woman, to talk to him. That's all I'm talking about. We're going to take about 6 minutes more and that'll be all. If I had an 18-year-old daughter that wanted to live on her own, I'd let her live on her own. I'd let her live on, you have no choice. She's an adult. So I told our kids when they got 13 years old, all of them, I said, now, we have rules here. They're lovingly, but they're carefully enforced. Now, if you ever decide that you don't want to live with those rules, you will have chosen to be an adult at that moment. We won't have any fusses about it. We won't be upset. I'll help you pack. You'll be an adult. Now, adults live somewhere else. Adults come home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Adults may come for Sunday lunch. But adults don't live in the home with their parents. Now, if you want to be an adult at 14, that's up to you. Or if you want to wait till you're 18 to be an adult, that's up to you. But you'll become an adult. Because with the privileges of eating here and sleeping here and us buying your clothes comes the responsibility if you're obeying our rules. And we'll not be dictatorial, we'll not be unkind, but you will obey our rules. And so when the day comes you won't obey the rules, you don't have to sneak out. You don't have to run off. You just come and tell me, I don't want to obey the rules anymore, and I'll hug you and kiss you and say I love you and pack and give you a going away party, and you'll be an adult. And you'll be treated like an adult from that moment forward. That's what I would do. Yes, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I'll be quite frank with you, and I'll close with this. I'll be quite frank with you. One of the sorrows of my life is I got so much I want to put in print, and I haven't got any time to do it. There's no way to describe to you my schedule. I mean, it's beyond comprehension. Can you imagine this place full of people, and how many of them didn't want to see me at the same time? If you asked me for an appointment now. Unless I could talk somebody out of changing theirs, I couldn't see you to the middle of May. And that breaks my heart. Well, not in your case. I don't want to see you at all. But you know what I'm trying to say. And so because of that, the thing I'd love to write, but I've got my outlines ready to dictate for 3 books right now. And I doubt very seriously, I don't know when I'll get to them. I just don't know. And this thing is a monster here. It is. I mean, now I could let it go to pot and have plenty of time to write books. But I'm not going to let it go to pot. I'm going to watch it all the time. All the time. Brother Young a while ago came in here and told you all the things he does. But I'll guarantee you, when we meet, he asked me no less than 100 questions every week of the world about his ministry for my approval. That's just one little facet of it. I keep my finger on everything around here, and because of that, my heart grieves because I can't put in writing some things I want to write. I'm desperate to write a book on the church. I'm dying to do it, but I just don't have the time right now and don't know when I'll find it. I've got an entire book already outlined on counseling I want to write. I'm dying to write a book on justice. But and then folks are begging me to write my autobiography. I've got folks that said they'll finance my autobiography for me if I write it. And but getting the time is the problem. I don't believe. That's enough of that now. I don't believe that there's a church in the world who could have weathered the storm we've been through in the last 2 years like these folks have weathered it. I have a sermon I preached. I preached it a couple of times, but I preached it here, called The Opportunities of Adversity. In that sermon I say that any time that a friend or a loved one of yours has adversity, you're very fortunate because you have the opportunity of a lifetime to show that friendship. I feel sorry for Job's wife. If ever a wife had an opportunity to show her love and loyalty, Job's wife had it. She could have been the greatest wife in the Bible because she was given that opportunity that most ladies never have. Job's friends, so-called, had an opportunity that nobody else in history probably has ever had to that extent, and they blew it. These folks have had an opportunity, and they have not blown it. They have believed in me. They have stood by me. They've loved me. There's several reasons for that. One reason is when the sun was shining, they knew I loved them. And when they had their clouds, I stuck with them. And now when we've been through this together, they've stood beside the preacher and the church. There's no way to describe. Every real pastor in this room can relate to what I'm saying right now. There's no way to describe how much I love these people. No way in the world. I wish I were 40. I'd like to have another 30 years. The thought of them having somebody behind this pulpit that can't love them right eats my soul. We sort of feel like this is our chance every year to do what little we can. And if what I said last night were true, about 260,000 righteous people could save a nation. or save a generation from the judgment of God. Who knows but what this little pastor school may not have done it. I wouldn't be surprised that in the past generation there haven't been 260,000 people saved because of this pastor school who live separated lives. Now, we're not the Savior, and I'm not the Moses. But we want to do our part. On behalf of, I'll say this to the folks standing on the platform, on behalf of all of us in pastor school, we thank you for every little job, every time you stood in the rain or the cold in the parking lot. Those that spent 10, 12 hours Monday out in the cold passing out the little letter of warning. Those who cleaned the toilets. Those who kept the buildings clean. Those who've run the errands. Those who've taken off vacation time to clean a toilet or be an errand boy. In some cases, businessmen have been servants of a secretary on the staff this week. It's just our way of saying once a year, we love our country and want to do what we can to salvage it. Now, on behalf of these folks here, I want to say to you, we couldn't have made it without you. We couldn't. I mean, the storms have been a little tough on these folks sometimes. And let me tell you something else. Which is worse? You suffering with a serious illness, or your child watching your child suffer? Any real parent hurts more when the child is seriously ill. I'd give it arm. If I could take the disease our daughter has, I'd do it in a minute if I could. I can't. Which hurts worse? A pastor suffering, or thousands of people watching him who love him? It's a helpless feeling for these people. They love me. They want to do something. I think the thing that there's several things this week that have impressed me, but one of the most impressive things, and a lot of you folks on the platform didn't hear it. Are the mission men here? Let me see the guy. The guy who spent 20 years. Jim, come here. Jim Kiefer. Kiefer. Jim Kiefer, come here a minute. Come here, Jim. This guy spent how long in the pen?
About 15 years.
15 years. Murder. I think the thing that is probably is most typical is what you heard about what he said. He said to Brother Keith in serious terms. He said, Brother Keith, I'm 50 in my 50s. The mission, I get 3 meals a day and sleep on a cot. I get the same thing in jail. He said, if you need me to, I'll take care of Brother Hyles' enemies. Thank you. He's not going to do it, but thank you, folks, all of you. May the Holy Spirit reveal to you my gratitude for what you mean to me. Elaine?